Welcome back to Coming In Hot with Caroline. Hi, I'm your host. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here. And if you can follow, subscribe, we would so appreciate it. And today we've got John in the house. John is here.
Hello.
And while we were in Tokyo, we actually shot a podcast and we actually thought it had a lot of great information in it. And of course, the mics weren't working because why would they? John?
Tech support failed.
John.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was a little cranky.
Little?
So, yeah. Okay. So we're going to just reshoot. We're going to rediscuss because we had an incredible trip. John and I have both always loved travel. John's a little bit easier at it than I am. But we do have some tips, some tricks. It's been 19 years of traveling together, and we thought, let's get into it. John?
Yes. Yeah,
Hello.
welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, travel can be tough. And if you're not on the same page,
so
even
what do you
worse.
think?
And
Actually,
then add kids into the mix.
Well, when we first met, we both always said that travel, I've always said, I think travel is what makes you a more interesting person. As the more cultures, the more, places, the more people that you can meet, the better, because obviously it gives you a different perspective on the world, especially as children. And I just want to say, growing up, I didn't have the happiest household. And trips and vacations were our happy place. That's usually when my mom was in a better mood. My dad was making that effort. We were having fun as a family. We weren't in the home setting where it was very stressful for all of us. When we would go away, it was definitely the happier memories for me. So vacations and trips to me signified just a happy time, and why it's so important, I think, in families to take breaks and to spend some time together and to see the world. So with that said, why travel is so important to me, but also when you get married, you sometimes have very different perspectives on what travel is, how you travel, and that's when you really get to know someone. People say all the time, before you marry somebody, you should travel with them. They even say that with friends.
Yeah.
They say you want to have a good friend, travel with them, because
Yes.
you see how they react to things. You see how they handle things, bottom line. So John, first of all, really quick, growing up, did your parents travel a lot? Give us a little background on you, just because as we
Yes.
come together, our experiences growing up and traveling were very different.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things in relationships is ask how they traveled when they were young, when they were kids, because that sets the stage for how they're going to travel when they're older. And we have different experiences traveling when you were younger. And we would do driving trips. We would drive. I grew up in Michigan. We'd drive to Florida, which most people did. Take I-75.
Everyone drove to Florida for vacation?
Oh, yeah. You drive I-75, and once you hit the first Waffle House, you're in the South.
Ooh,
and that's where you would stop going along, and you'd go along the way. And I still remember meeting some kids, the Peaches. Patty Peach, and they were from the South. And yeah, you
Patty
meet the people.
Peach? Shout out to Patty Peach.
But yeah, we'd go down to Florida, and you go to Disney World, but you're staying at the Motel 7 or Route 6 or whatever.
It wasn't fancy.
It's not
your
fancy.
trips were not fancy.
No, not growing up. And I hadn't been on a plane till I think I was 13, 14 when we went to Reno. For my dad to go gamble. And he'd take little junkets and stuff. But
I love that your travel was your dad going to gamble.
But then we started golfing, and we took some golf trips. And we've driven across the country. We drove to Colorado. We've driven across Canada and all the way, and for a couple weeks through all the Yellowstone and that.
Oh, you did?
So we got to experience life on the road, camping.
And more seeing the States, actually.
Seeing the States, not in the best... Yeah, we're not staying in the best resorts, right?
Yeah. And how was the driving? Was your mom happy? Was it fun? Will you guys be fighting? Because I actually recall a story about your dad. Literally turning around and driving all the way home because he was so
Arizona,
fucking
24
annoyed
hours
with you guys.
He drove home. Yes, because we didn't want to go do something, and he's like, "Fuck it," and he drove, and the pissed look on his face, and he just drove. And I think we were in Colorado or Arizona, one of those, and he drove.
So
all
he
the way
wanted
across.
to do something. You literally were you guys were just bitching for whatever reason.
Yeah, and my mom.
Everybody was bitching.
We all were.
And he literally was like, that's it. And he spun the car around and drove directly all the way back home.
The flexibility when you can drive.
I mean, that's kind of
But
badass.
then as we got into college, we would take trips going to the Caribbean. We went to the Cayman Islands. We'd go with my dad and mom.
Did it ignite? Because I have to say, you and For those of you who don't know, John does have an identical twin. For you guys were actually, it did ignite a travel bug in you guys that
We
I
love
don't
to
think,
travel.
but I don't know if that happens for everyone when you don't have an experience in it and you don't, some kids, you know how like some kids want to leave the small town.
Yeah.
Some kids end up getting married and living the exact same life, right?
Yes.
Like, so what do you think it is that triggered you in, because you're like Debbie doesn't love to travel, your sister. So it's like, what is it that triggered that travel bug for you guys?
We just, I think having a twin, we just liked adventure, seeing new places.
You always liked
Yeah,
adventure.
we traveled right after college, went around. Jim I did a semester from business school in Australia. You did one in Spain. So we just loved seeing new things, new places, experiencing new things. Oh, yes.
And was it, just curious, because I just find this all fascinating. Like, were your other friends traveling to fancy places?
No.
Were you guys all kind of in the same bracket?
We were all
Just
in the
curious,
same-
like, was there
we were
any
all-
jealousy? You're
we
not
were all in
watching,
the same boat.
like you weren't looking at social media, watching people going on yachts.
No.
While you're like in the backyard, you know what I mean?
No,
Gardening. I'm
I-
saying truthfully, what was the perspective
It was
at that
getting
time?
there. Like I'd stay in a hostel. We didn't care. Like,
Oh,
I'd sleep
God,
wherever.
no.
I'd sleep in the car. We'd do whatever. And it's like, you've
You
never
guys,
stayed in a
John
hostel.
has stayed at hostels. You
Yeah.
wouldn't catch
I
me
think
dead.
everyone-
Meanwhile, I probably would have the time of my life. I'd be friends with
You
everybody,
would.
wouldn't I?
I think everyone needs to experience what the lowest budget travel is, because
I wonder if Jackson
one,
stayed at a hostel.
you have that whole different experience. I'm sure he has.
I need a backup,
I'm sure he has.
Jackson. I need
Never
Thank you.
said-
See,
Yes, but you have to experience it. And the reason is
What's
then
the
you
reason?
understand the people who are traveling and doing all these things. Now, I don't recommend going
backpacking. You mean?
backpacking, yes, and understanding how that works.
Did you watch the movie
Yeah, the
with Liam Neeson, where she got kidnapped?
well, yeah.
I'm saying it's dangerous. I'm saying
well,
these
don't lie.
hostels and
Have
these
people
like
know where you are.
backpacks. It's
But
like
that's-
I find it all like kind of dangerous.
Yeah,
Was it
no.
dangerous back when you were a kid in college and traveling?
I was ignorant around any of the dangers.
You were, right.
Yeah, there are dangers, and it's
Okay,
good
wait,
to have a
we're
plan.
going to get into
Yeah.
that because I really
Okay.
want to talk about the danger. So really quick, so everyone, you kind of were all in the same bracket. It wasn't like you had these jealousies. You were watching people do these extravagant trips. Like you very much,
Not that I
it
remember.
was, how many times a year did you travel? Just curious.
Couple times.
Just a couple times. You drive
once or
somewhere.
Twice, yeah.
And it wasn't fancy, but you got there and you made the best of it.
Yes.
Didn't matter how you got there, where you were staying, as long as you were on vacation.
Yeah, the memories I have were of like snorkeling or going doing this, the parties that they had New Year's, and
I'm sure you
the
remember
people
those.
and ladies you meet.
What?
I mean, girls. Yes.
That's a different show. Listen. Okay, so
Yeah.
listen, we just went. So for me growing up, I found it interesting because my parents obviously were
Fancy pants.
fancy pants, or at least wanted to be or tried to be. We would travel a lot for my dad's work. So because it was work, we got like the bonus, the perks from it being work. So we would travel business. We would always have like a car or chauffeur like we did. I grew up definitely more of the fancy pants. We went to Paris, we'd go to Spain, we'd go to Switzerland, we'd ski. And, I'm not going to lie. Does it make it harder to ever go backwards? I would be lying if I said no. Yes. Is it when you've traveled in business your entire life and then you're like, oh, let's just go sit and coach. Is it comfortable? No. Is it the same thing? Not really. Like, are you excited to go backwards? Not really. And I do think that I understand when you say it can damage like your perspective, because without a doubt, it made it harder for me. And I know my parents always said, that was the one thing they'd always say, was once you're used to a certain lifestyle, it is very hard to go backwards. And that's what they said about marrying well. That's what they said about, all of it, which is an interesting perspective. Because like you said, yeah, like when we went, I was a little bit more spoiled. And we definitely had a trip to Hawaii when I was in college, and I was bored out of my mind because I was alone with my parents. And I was definitely a bitch. And I definitely was like cranky. It wasn't fun. And you definitely didn't appreciate where you were. It was like the gorgeous hotel, it was beautiful weather, it was this, but like my parents were fighting, they were annoying, I didn't want to be with them. And you definitely had a different perspective. I was definitely more spoiled in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So as you get older, yes, there is an expectation at that point. And I'm sorry, it's like if you had the choice to be comfortable and to be uncomfortable, I'm assuming you're going to pick comfortable. And I understand what you're saying is, well, you need to be able to afford that. But at that point, it was kind of what I was used to. So when I met John, it was a different perspective, because like for John, he wanted to go on a fun trip. He's more fly by the seat of your pants.
Yes.
He's like, pack a bag, let's get to the airport, or like, we're going to Costa Rica, you know, might be like a night flight, which I was like, what? I can't sleep on a plane, so I'm a disaster on a night flight.
Oh.
Where John, he sits down, literally says, what are you going to eat for? And he's asleep. Like, that's it. Mouth back, mouth wide open, and could sleep for 15 hours with his head straight up, his neck cranked. Like, it's insane.
And
I've never seen anything. Yeah, wake up, and he's like ready to go on an adventure. Meanwhile, I'm like, where's the Excedrin? I need 75 coffees. I hate everyone.
You don't eat any food on the plane.
I won't eat on the plane because I'm super
then
picky
you
with
bitch
food.
That, why didn't we stop and eat here? Why didn't you take care of me? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, and I was like, oh, now I got to think about other people.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get married, okay? And you have kids. You actually have to think about other people. And I think this is where people go wrong in marriage, especially once it comes to travel. Because again, whether it's the home, whether it's finances, whether it's discipline, whether it's travel, your upbringings will roar its head when, you know, things don't go your way. So,
but when we get there and you're finally settled, we would like to do adventures, right? We would do four-wheeling, we'd do whatever. And we would go and do the snorkeling trip. We'd go
swim with the sharks.
Yes, we'd have the fun. It doesn't have to be it's got to be an experience, and you're going to remember that, how it all comes about. It's not going to be the highest end, or doesn't need to be. It's just got to be something new that we remember.
I agree. I don't think, and it's funny for me because it's like, it's not the activity that needs to be high end, because of course it's not, you know, like, I mean, listen, if you want to rent me a yacht and have me lay there with, you know, feeding me grapes, I'll take it. But it's like that. It doesn't have to be that. But for me, I guess the travel part is part of it. And I feel like that's part of the experience. And like, I want to be comfortable. I think like once you're just miserable and uncomfortable, it's a little bit harder to like snap out of it. It's a little bit harder to like enjoy and appreciate where you are. So there is something about being comfortable that does help the process.
I think that's where it's important to understand what the non-negotiables are when you go into a relationship around travel, specifically travel, because you need to know, all right, do you need to take the flight there, right? The hotel and where you stay.
Yep.
Does the money you spend there, is it worth it or not? Or do you spend more on experiences? And what is the budget for the trip? You don't like when I bring up the word budget, but you have to have a budget for a trip. And do you shorten the trip or not? Like people, when we went to Tokyo, they were saying it was only 7 days. You fly all that way.
I see a lot of those comments. And people are like, why would you ever go?
And
I
think they come from a lot of the European folks, because they take long extended holiday, right? Where we can do this. And I'm like, it's 10 hours. I'm like, 10-hour trip there, 10-hour trip back.
Well, the truth is, we only have a week off for spring break. We have no choice. The kids don't have time off. This was our only chance to go, and we're going to take it. If we have an opportunity, John, the one thing we definitely agree on is that if we have an opportunity to do something and go travel and go see something, we're going to take it. And yes, it's always worth going for 7 days.
And I'll take the red eye.
John will take the red eye. John will kill it. I will be a hot mess, but we do it, and we always do it.
And then I hear about it. So it's, remember that.
I have to say our Tokyo trip, I have to say this might have been our best so far, because things actually went quite smoothly.
So I would say, except for day one. So I think this is the tip is, one, understand what people want to do before. And I planned the whole trip. So I don't like planning. She hates planning. So
I can't do the trips.
I still did it. I worked with a travel agent just to help. But I planned, looked where we're going. Nobody even opened a map, I don't think, or even researched any of the places we were going. I was looking up, hey, where are the vintage shops? Where are we going? What are this based on what people want to do?
Where are the vintage shops, John? I'm like, we need to go shop. And he's like, have you even opened a map or know where you are?
Guys, kids,
I think we're in Tokyo.
Yeah, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Because if I choose and you bitch, you can't. You don't have a right to complain. But here's the thing is, no, you don't. And I have to take into consideration the things that you want to do, but I'm also not a travel agent. I do not like setting up all the trips. I'm going to do it my way. And you always don't like it my way. So you got to help. But here's the thing is, the way I like to go is I can go. I don't have to eat. I can walk forever. And the one thing I wanted the kids to experience was the subway. Tokyo subway is phenomenal experience. It's clean. It's nice. Just you see
It's
how
phenomenal.
it all works.
I have to admit, it's
I
phenomenal.
hadn't done it in 15 years, so I had to.
Well, because we went
we
for
went-
our baby moon.
Right. We
when I
went
was pregnant
15
with
years
Sawyer.
ago to Tokyo, and I'd been a couple times before that and loved it. But the subways, it always takes a little bit of time to figure it out. And one of my tips is always take a subway in every city you're in and just go and get off at stops, because you just experience the city and get lost a little bit.
John likes to get lost a little
Once you
bit.
figure out the subway, you figured out the city. You know the areas, you know where you're going, and you know the directions, and it's pretty easy. So taking the subway is important. However, I didn't research enough about the subway and what tickets to buy this. So we all go as a family into the subway. And I also forgot you got to walk a lot of stairs and things to go up.
Well,
and
I mean,
down.
hey, and you have to give us credit. We're all like, great, like, let's take the subway. We're going to go explore. We took the subway when I was 5 months pregnant and we went for the baby moon. We did not take one single taxi that trip.
Yeah.
John wanted to walk the entire time or take a subway. I was 5 months pregnant, almost fainted, had to call the doctor. That's all I'm going to say. So he does push it to a point where he doesn't take into consideration how everyone else feels. And I think that's just a tip right there, which
right.
what you said, it's like planning. Again, understood you're doing the plans, but you also have to take consideration who you're planning for at the end of the day is understanding your wife
Yes.
and your kids and just saying, okay, do we need to do it all in one day? Does it make sense to walk 15 hours when someone has 2 bulging discs and a back pain
Yeah.
and this? Like, there's just little things that you do have to take into consideration, and you have to think of, and that's what's hard about traveling with your family.
Yeah,
it's different.
well,
You
I would
think
have
of other
taken
people.
the elevator down to the subway. You're going to walk a lot in Tokyo. It's just, we knew that. Our friends had just been there, 15,000 steps, and so we should have done those little things. And then as we're out walking around, it's like, oh, there's a restaurant. We should go to the restaurant. Oh no, there'll be one up there. 2 hours later, there's still no restaurant. And so,
And
yeah,
now the
maybe
kids
you
are
gotta,
bitching.
yeah, maybe
now
you got to
Finn's
do
starving,
things.
and we're just like, now we're really annoyed at John. But it wasn't so much because we took a subway and we weren't in taxis. It was more of, you just forget, and this is just that, again, tip, you forget what travel entails sometimes.
Yeah.
And you forget that you're not in the comfort of your own home. Like, you do have to walk to go get
Bring
a
some
Costa. You have
snacks,
to
do
bring,
that, yeah.
yes, like bring some snacks. Like, you're out for the day. You don't know, like, things would close. All the sushi places would close about 3. And by the time we actually got our shit together and would get out and start walking around, we would sit to go eat around 2:15, and they'd be closed. So it's, again, having an awareness of where you're
Well-
going, the country you're in. Again, like what John said, understand like the subway systems. Like, again, where is your hotel located? How much do you have to walk? Like, just having an awareness and you being open to understanding you're in a different country. There is a lot of walking. You are touring.
But you also have to know your issues growing up as a kid. I think you ask the question is like, okay, what did you like or not like about traveling with your parents? What were those things that
Hated
really annoyed
waiting
you?
for my dad.
The waiting for your dad comes up, because then when she waits for me, it triggers something in her. Like, wait, I had to wait for my dad and I hated it. He'd have to go
or
to the
if
bathroom.
John's like being
or-
a little bit slow, like about
Yeah.
something or making a decision, like
He'd
I
have long
honestly get,
lunches.
or like a long lunch or lingering, it makes me like, I start getting anxiety because my dad would literally, he could drink a Cuban coffee for 45 minutes at the end of a 2-hour meal and then smoke a cigar and then start talking, then put his sunglasses on. And we'd be like, are you kidding? Like, we want to go.
But that triggering, I should know that. And then you know not to trigger that. So be ready, do whatever you need to do to get ready so you don't trigger it.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately have some
He has his own
memory,
issues. And I
yeah.
think that's the thing is like where his dad is very strict and anal and very routine. It's just like, do what you got to do. And like, he wants to go see everything. You better go see everything or he's going to turn around and go home. And John definitely has that in him where he can, you push him a little too far, or like that day at the subway, he got defensive when we really weren't yelling at him or being pissed at him, but he definitely got defensive because
Yes.
he was frustrated. He was tired. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. So we all have a tough personality. We all have our moments. And when you travel, they come out even more.
What about
They're exaggerated.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with like the kids who bitch because of not wanting to do something? Do you force them to do it or do you not? Because I have a vivid memory of my dad wanting to go see a glacier, him out on the glacier by himself walking. And I actually felt bad, and I went out there.
You did?
Yeah. And I joined him.
But
and
Jim didn't.
Jim didn't. No one else did. My sister, her friend, and my mom. No one else did. We're in the car. They're listening to AC/DC, balls on the wall, because when we got back in the car, my dad heard that and goes, "What is this shit?" And he was pissed, shut the music off. But yeah, I've got big balls.
Shut
She's
up.
got
So
big
he's
balls,
at a
but we've got
glacier, and that's what everyone else is
And I
doing.
went out with him. And I remember that experience.
See, I would feel
vividly.
guilty too.
Yeah,
I would
so-
feel guilty too. But this is the thing: is that again, you're all going somewhere to attempt to have a good time, and I think it's reminding yourself that it's not a vacation with your family sometime. And as much as we want to think it's a vacation, it's not a vacation. It is work. You're traveling with kids. It is work. They are going to be tired. It is a trip. It's a journey. Yeah. It can be very emotional because, of course, if you're tired and you're cranky and I'm exhausted, like, of course they are too. And they don't, they're more comfortable to bitch and complain. But I have to say, I think, again, having that preparation, setting those boundaries, I think John and I have always been very strict about the plane. Not everyone agrees. I know I got some feedback saying that, kids, you're supposed to walk up and down the aisle. You're supposed to stretch your legs. John and I were very adamant that, you can travel with kids and it doesn't have to be a shit show. We're very strict on the plane that you sit, you respect everyone that's on that flight, you be quiet. It is a privilege to be there, to be traveling. So you sit still and be quiet. And yes, can you go to the bathroom? Can you stretch your legs? Of course. But we are very good about understanding that travel is a privilege, and we talk to them about it and make sure you have enough toys, make sure you have enough snacks, some entertainment, the iPads. Again, it's setting them up for success, having this assumption once you let them up once and run up and down those aisles, I feel like you've unlocked a box that you cannot control again. So for me, it's setting those boundaries from the start with shorter flights, because for me, it's like a Cabo flight is way easier to handle a child and a baby than it is, a 15-hour flight. So again, start small and then start, but yes, can you travel and have an incredible time with your kids? I do believe that.
And
John
I believe you can get them, they can have an incredible time back in economy.
What? Oh God, let's talk about it really quick, you guys, because an argument that we had was I wanted to fly the entire family business. John thought that we should fly business and the kids should fly economy. I almost had a heart attack because I was very much like, number one, safety. I don't want them alone in the back of the plane. I don't want them with strangers back there. Anything can happen. Two, we have flown economy for probably 10, 15 years straight. And
I wouldn't say straight, but
and again, we have miles, we have points, and if we can afford it and we are working so hard for us to go somewhere together as a family, again, like I said, I think it starts with the trip. It starts with the travel day. And when you set yourself up for like honestly, Tokyo, I have to say, and yes, I'm going to sound like a bitch because it was just a great travel day. It was a great flight. You arrive. It just, when things go smoothly, like you are in a good mood. I slept for 8 hours. I felt good. And it was like, you're in a better mood. We have flown where it's like we didn't sleep the entire flight. Finn was screaming half the flight and it's a crazy shit show. So for me, I'd rather know where they are. If they need anything, I want to be close to them, and I feel like we travel as a family. If we can afford it, we all go together. So it's either we all go together in business or we all go together in economy, because the point is we're going on a family trip together. John disagrees.
I do.
Go ahead.
I think it's a good learning experience for them to sit in the back. And again, it saves money.
But what's the lesson being learned if they do fly economy a lot of the time? And they have flown economy a lot of the time. And again, they're living in a nice house or having nice things. How is that?
Well, then
why
it
is
just
the
has some
flight
independence.
the one lesson?
Independence. Would you stick them on a flight by themselves?
I would if it was necessary.
Yeah. Where would you?
But if I'm going with them, why wouldn't I sit with them? Like, why am I not sitting with my kids?
Well, did you see your kids on the flight back?
They were sleeping the whole flight.
Yeah, you didn't see them. They could sleep.
I know, but John,
they're small.
This is where again, I feel like you work your ass off for a reason, and it is to enjoy. It is to have a great time. And for me, these are the occasions that were the happiest for me as a child. So I want to make sure that they were good.
But they were also the reasons why you have a perspective of like.
But I think it's something. It's a good goal to have. I think it's like this is what we work towards. Is to be able to provide that for your family. And I think it's like a real privilege
Until
to be
when?
able to do
Because I
that.
think when your parents were flying you to, you would continue to expect it.
True. You can't. I mean, at some point you do have to pay for it yourself, and it sucks.
Right. Well, no, but that's the point.
the
Is
truth.
it's provided to you. You didn't earn it, right? And so the kids just have to understand that. And how do you teach that to them? Say, hey, look,
Okay,
you
yeah,
can
you're
sit in the
right.
back. So they have to. They have to realize, and so sitting in the back, they have to understand what a luxury it is to be able to do that. So I mean, I've
Agreed.
taken 1 year for work, traveling for work, 16 red eyes in a year, and I understand. And
But
there's
again, you're
this exchange
easygoing.
of comfort and yes, and
Yes.
so you have to understand how you travel, but you're putting your perspectives onto the kids, and I think they haven't ever really complained that, oh, I couldn't sleep. And
But the point is, we have traveled many times in coach. It wasn't like I am just flying them only in business. That's crazy. I would never do that.
Right.
Unless I
and
could.
even taking shorter flights and stuff. And I've upgraded you with miles and things, and where we had 2 seats, and we send one of the kids up, and I sit with the other one because I do. Yes, safety. You want to make sure the kids aren't sitting next to some strangers, and because you never know what happens. So there's ways of
And when you're
finding
traveling, guys,
two-seaters.
just always be safe. Always be aware, and make sure that you have everything on you, with you. Make sure you're using the safe. Again, prepare. Have like set up. You know what I mean? Prepare
What
before
are
the
what
trip.
are some of the travel tips?
I mean, I think that's it,
Like
because
for
we
you.
got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, the travel tips for me would be, I would pack half of what I packed, because when you're traveling, again, we say this every single time, but truly, you're touring all day, especially if you're going to Japan or like far away place where you're doing a lot of tours. You're not going to wear half of your clothes. You're in your clothes all day. You get home, you're exhausted, you go to sleep. So I would say pack half of what you have. I would say that you are going to shop and want to bring home stuff. So don't forget that. Again, don't forget to respect the laws. Don't forget to respect the culture. Again, when you're seeing
Respect
traveling,
yourself. I
and
mean,
just respect
look
yourself, because you
good.
do see the shit show that goes on and what an embarrassment it is. And honestly, like, you are visiting somewhere, respect where you're going. Make sure your children respect where they're going. Again, when you're traveling, it doesn't have to be a shit show. There can be rules and boundaries so that you have a safe, happy flight.
Yeah.
And I would say travel as much as you possibly can, because I think it's the best money spent.
It is the best money spent to go see different things, take adventures, go try something new, walk into that restaurant that you have no idea,
And point a finger at the menu.
and take a chance and try it.
And some of my favorite trips are Africa, safari. I can't wait to go back again. I loved Australia, loved Tokyo, Japan, dying to go to Brazil and the Amazon. But again, travel is, and I want to see the
in the
gorillas
U.S.
in the mist. And
New
see some of the
York
U.S.
and-
But
yeah.
travel. It will make you a more interesting person.
Yeah, and
Travel
always
safe.
take a carry-on.
Oh, shit. Or pack a lot. Bye.
Okay.
Okay. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. We got to go. We'll be back next week, and we so appreciate. Please review, like, leave a comment, follow, and we'll be back next week. Have a fabulous week, and thank you for listening. Mwah. Bye.